And we're live. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday Show. It's Neil on a Wednesday. I've just come back from Alton Towers. It's when I was young, I would be legging it to go on those roller coasters. Now I'm looking at them and thinking, yeah, do I really? Teacup ride at a push. I did go on some of them. They got one where you fly like Superman, and then it turns you upside down, and you fly kind of upside down and backwards. I think it would. Yeah, it would be backwards, wouldn't it? Which was weird. And there's a picture of me looking. When you get the photo, you get the flash photo taken, and you can go and buy the photos. There's a picture of me looking like I probably had the worst case of gastroenteritis ever. Looking literally like my head is about to explode in some weird sci-fi horror movie. Anyway, that was my last few days. I hope you're well. Thank you for tuning into the Midday Show. Today, we have a guest. As always, we bring you the best guests, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation with this lady. So, questions, please, on the timeline. Would love to hear your questions as we bring her on. And I'm just looking for her banner. There it is. And let's bring her to the stage. Suzanne Young, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Neil. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, but I'm very jealous because I love Alton Towers.
Do you? What's your favourite ride there?
It's been a while. So I actually quite like Smiler, although it knocks my head around quite a lot. But my favourite has to be Oblivion.
Oh, do you know? Well, they closed the park they closed most of the rides in the park for a day because of thunderstorms. So I didn't get to go on Oblivion, and I must admit I wasn't feeling in the mood for Smiler. Have you been on 13?
Yes, and I really like Rita, Queen of Speed.
Right, I love 13 because it's when it comes to stop in the dark bit, you think that's the end. It's just gonna chug back into the station, and then it drops, and then you go backwards. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Oh yeah, no, I am a true fan. I'm originally from the Northeast, and I can always remember being very jealous of people in the Midlands who had like all of these theme parks near them. Thorpe Park, Gulliver's Kingdom, all of the ones that the big names at the time.
Well, you had the big one at Blackpool, surely.
Well, that's the Northwest, not the Northeast. The Northeast has nothing. We had Metroland. Metroland was at the time was Europe's biggest indoor theme park. That meant it was about 4 foot square, and it had a roller coaster. And I had many a teenage evening spent in Metroland, but it was nothing in comparison. We had Lightwater Valley. I think that was probably that was the one we went to on school trips.
Have you ever been to America and ridden the roller coasters there?
Yes.
They're great, aren't they?
Yes. I haven't been to Florida and done the ones there, but I have been to Virginia and been to Busch Gardens in Virginia.
Busch Gardens I went to. Yeah, Busch Gardens really, really good. Yes. I could talk all day about roller coasters, actually. But you're a high performance coach. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
I really want to hear about this. On your biography, on your website, you say you want to almost reclaim the workplace and get the passion back into the workplace rather than the toxic atmosphere that's there at the moment, because people do love to moan about their workplace, most certainly, and moan about morale, moan about this, moan about that. And a lot of the time they've got a good point. It can be a very toxic environment. So I'd love to hear more about that. Was it born out of you having your own toxic experience in the workplace? You thought, right, someone needs to do something about this, and it's going to be me. What's the backstory?
Yeah, it's really similar. And without naming and shaming, because I've got NDAs in place, I worked for a couple of places where, quite honestly, it was so horrendously toxic that it was detrimental to mental health. And one place in particular, I watched like manager after manager after manager go off sick. Like they were like dominoes. And it was primarily when I got out and I stood back and looked, it was primarily because the senior leader wasn't supported and felt vulnerable. So they couldn't delegate properly. What they ended up doing was micromanaging. And it's one of the things that managers and leaders will do when they're feeling uncomfortable or unsure, they'll start micromanaging, which actually is really almost the worst thing they can do, because what it does is it transmits to the person below them, I don't trust you. And then they start doubting themselves. And then the two just violate each other. And then you get mistakes because people are acting under stress. And the analogy I always use is, if you had a 4-year-old and you were teaching them how to tie their shoelaces, if they were tying their shoelaces and doing it wrong, would you snatch it off them and start doing it for them? Well, you wouldn't, would you? Because when they're 65 and at their own retirement due, you'd still be doing up their blinking laces.
Right. So it's a toxic, almost precedent setting, isn't it? And you're right. People who are stressed don't make good decisions. We now know that scientifically the prefrontal cortex shuts down and they're acting from the emotional brain, much like your 4-year-old, if you like. And we see so much of that, and it comes down to fear, doesn't it? And I suppose it goes all the way back up, a chain of pain, if you like.
A chain of pain is a great term. Yeah, absolutely. And it goes up and down the whole chain of pain. Absolutely. And the first step is awareness, right? We're not performing very well. Typically, it's when people start leaving that senior leaders go, oh, hang on a minute, have we got a problem? Because when you replace an employee, it typically costs you 50% plus of their salary to replace them. And then you've got a dip in productivity because of the learning curve of the new person. The other thing is, once you've got someone who goes off sick with stress, typically you're going to get somebody else who's going to go off sick. Because what happens is their work is distributed between the already stretched and stressed employees, and therefore they just end up with a heavier load.
Yeah, do you know, I wouldn't have thought about it that way, but I suppose it all does come down the chain, doesn't it? So the whole thing is a massive false economy.
It's exactly that. It's a huge
and really puts paid to the idea that work, if your nose is to the grindstone, push it harder sort of idea.
Yeah, and actually, you've already talked about the frontal cortex. What we need to do is actually rest. Ask any person with a new baby who's getting no decent sleep about how their mental health is, and they'll tell you. And I'm not talking about the mums who've got the hormone surge. I'm talking about the daddies as well, and the nanas who are living in the house, whoever the family group is. They'll tell you that they're struggling with their mental health because of the lack of sleep. And the problem is, when we're in this fight and flight situation at work, this cortisol levels are high and constantly high. We then struggle to switch off, which means we don't get the sleep that we need to reset our mental health, if you like. And therefore, it not only perpetuates, but it speeds up the stress.
Or we can develop unhealthy habits, like, for example, drinking a bit too much at the end of the day to calm down, which works for half an hour. True, yeah, but
that affects your sleep as well, right? The drinking alcohol, if you look at a graph of someone whose sleep pattern hasn't drunk alcohol and they have, you will see that they have better quality sleep if they haven't drunk any alcohol. And you're right. And, we've all been guilty of this. That glass of wine ends up being like not at dinner time, not at 8 o'clock. It starts getting poured whilst you're making dinner. And then it's a second one and maybe a third one. And then we start doing like quite extreme things as well to self-soothe.
Such as?
Well, people take up crazy hobbies, and it's so that it's such a dichotomy to where they are at work that so you'll get people going, I've started paragliding. You're like, why? I'm parachuting this weekend. You're like, really? Because they're trying to dampen the stress by actually introducing a different stress. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And,
I wouldn't have thought about it that way before, but yes, it does. I never made the link. I just thought they were adrenaline junkies, but yeah, people do. So where does the problem lie? What's the root of it? Because it's a chain. It's going to be probably a chain of blame as well. So, and blaming again helps for half an hour, but it doesn't really solve anything. So what's the solution, and where does the exact problem lie?
So I'm going to talk about the blame first, because you have something called the drama triangle. That I don't know if you've come across this
the
before.
Victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor.
Exactly.
I know it well.
And what happens is, when you're in this toxic work environment, you end up just perpetuating around this drama triangle, and you're either a victim or somebody else's perpetrator. And you can be both, and you can be a rescuer. But the problem is that the rescuer and the perpetrator and the victim themselves not only get entrenched, but they all disempower the victim. What we can do
Yes,
about
I
it.
read that the drama triangle could be inverted with the victim at the bottom, and he gets a stiff neck from looking up at the other two and gets kind of fed up with it. And the rescuer might sound like the nicest of them, but it's not, because the rescuer can easily be pivoted around to the victim, and the person you're trying to rescue can become the perpetrator. And then they say, after all I tried to do for you. I've experienced it in personal relationships occasionally.
Exactly that.
Maybe in the
Exactly
rescuer.
that. And if you ask anybody, they'll very immediately identify with the victim, even the person who we can see, and like when we look back, whose shadow is casting all of the culture. So I think you said, what can we do about it? I can't quite remember the question. If I'm honest,
I'll do fine.
what can we do about it? Well, first of all, we need to just stop it. We need to recognize it and stop it. Now, that sounds really simple, and actually, it's easier than you think, because it really is.
I thought you were going to say easier said than done, but I'm
No,
liking where you're going.
No, I don't do hard. I don't do hard. Don't make life harder than it needs to be. So, in reality, we have events, our emotional response, and the outcome. But if you can take the emotion out, it's just events and data. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And I stumbled over that when I was talking to you.
That's all right.
Which is the same part of your brain. It basically acts as a filter. And it's the same part of your brain that when you've just bought a red car, makes you see all the red cars.
Yeah.
You do, right? Because what it does is it acts as your filter. So it filters out anything that it deems as noise. And it lets in and validates anything you believe. So when you think, my boss is always on my back, you're never going to notice the time they say, oh, do you know what? Dale did a great job yesterday. That'll just be filtered out.
And we all have a negative bias, don't we?
We do, because it keeps us alive.
We always remember the story of Jerry Halliwell when she was in the Spice Girls, and they were just becoming famous, and she's on a balcony, as famous girl bands are want to do, with the other four, and there was 9,999 people screaming and cheering, and one did that.
Right.
Now, which one do you think she remembered?
Yeah, absolutely, the one, the standout. Yeah. But there's a reason for that too. That's because it used to keep us alive. Yes. It does keep us alive. We risk assess all the time. I don't want to go on that roller coaster because I might get injured. I don't want to cross that road just right now because there's a car coming. We're risk assessing constantly. We're keeping ourselves alive. We're not thinking there's a car coming. What we're actually thinking is there's a car coming. It could impact me and I would be hurt and ill, damaged.
Now that's not unreasonable at all. And we need this part of us. However, at what point does it stop being useful and start to negatively affect us?
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to get rid of it entirely because that would be silly.
No. We're not going to get rid of it entirely because it's useful. But our brains haven't caught up with our modern world. That's the reality. So we're seeing danger. The mobile phones we've got, the pings, they're done a particular way to get our attention, but they trigger the hormones in our body that say alert. So everything we've got going on, like literally all of these labor-saving devices, all actually make us more anxious. That's the reality. So the way you're going to do it is this. We're going to use the RAS and we're going to spend a total of 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. In the morning, we're going to set the RAS on a little mission for the day. And we're going to start off by writing down 3 things you're grateful for. And 1 intention for the day. 3 things you're grateful for. That's all it needs to be. Now, what I'm going to say to you is when I started this practice, I couldn't leave my house because I had such bad anxiety.
Right.
This is how I got out. So first thing in the morning, early as you like, 3 things you're grateful for. At the end of the day before you go to bed, you're going to write down 3 things you did great, 2 lessons of the day, and 1 thing you're grateful for. Now, what that does is it gets that little filtering system going, oh, I need to look for things that I'm grateful for. Oh, I need to look for lessons of the day. No, lessons of the day, not things I did wrong. Because now you're taking the emotion out of the experience. And then it's going to say, and I need something that I did great today, so I can write that down tonight as well. And writing it down as well is really powerful. And I promise you, within 3 weeks, you will see a massive shift, huge shift in how you feel about work. Now, you can only influence what you do. But again, I guarantee you people will be going, what's different? And all you got to do is share it.
It's on a subtle level, isn't it? And we all know when someone's in a bad mood and it pulls down the rest of the energy. But no, you're right. I've heard. I read books. I read a book by Alan and Barbara Pease, the Australian psychologists. Right. Are you familiar? They did the whole body language series, and they were really, really good at it. And the latest one they've written is called. It's not that new now, maybe 3-4 years old now. Not The Secret. That was the film. The Answer. And they talk a lot about the reticular activation system there. But the point they make is it will filter what you program into it.
Yeah, so exactly that.
They tell you to always, not dissimilar teachings to the law of attraction. In fact, it's almost the science of it. You will see and filter what you're looking for. So always think about what you want, not what you don't want.
Exactly that, right? And if you ever learn how to ride a motorbike, they tell you, if you're going to crash, don't look at the tree. Look at anywhere other than the tree, because your brain will naturally take you where you're looking. So and you don't want to collide with the tree. So it's exactly that. What we're doing is saying, go and find the equivalent of the red cars. Go and find those cars and give me the evidence, because it wants to make you feel safe. So it's going to give you evidence to support your belief. And if you believe that there's something you did great today, it will deliver you that evidence. And the thing is, it's not like saying you've got to go and meditate for an hour. It's just using what your brain already does in a way that you just kind of point it in the right direction.
It's like working with it rather than against it, and even knowing it exists at all, and this is possible. But I'm absolutely sold on the idea, absolutely sold, because I've read too many books on stuff like this for it not to be true, unless there's some great worldwide conspiracy about neuroplasticity. Nah, don't think so. Take me through the protocol again then. So morning?
Yeah. So first thing in the morning, as soon as you can, 3 things you're grateful for and 1 intention for the day. Today, I'm going to drink 2 liters of water. That's another thing that if you're feeling anxious, you really need to make sure you're drinking plenty of water, because your brain needs water. It's primarily water. And we're made
of 80% water, aren't we?
Yeah. So, and I didn't even think about that until a colleague said to me, oh, I'm feeling anxious today. I must be dehydrated. And I was like, what? And then I went down a real rabbit hole, and you know what? It was dead right. If you're suffering with anxiety, don't just drink a glass of water, but make sure you drink a glass of water. So it's 3 things you're grateful for.
And 1 intention.
And there's no intention, and there's no judgment. If you're grateful for having a bed, that's a great thing to be grateful for. If you're grateful because you've got a coffee machine, that's a great thing to be grateful for. If you're grateful because the dog woke you up with a lick rather than a bark, that's a great thing to be grateful for. And then at the end of the day, just before you go to bed, 3 things you did great today. Now, I said earlier, when I first started doing this, I couldn't leave the house with depression, with anxiety. I can remember exactly what I wrote that first day, because I wrote 2 things, not 3. I couldn't get to 3. And I wrote, I managed to wash my hair, and I made a good cup of tea.
It's little things, and it's the beginning, the dawning of self-love, isn't it? It's we live in a world that tears down and criticizes and all that sort of thing. The latest example being what happened at the Coldplay gig. Now, I've seen the memes. and some of them are pretty funny. But I honestly don't think that people deserve to have their lives destroyed over one personal mistake. I really don't. But that's the world we live in, and people will just jump on that. People, they want the scandal, they want blood, don't they? Until they don't anymore. And when they start depletion themselves.
So there's so much projection going on about that, right? I haven't commented at all, because my first comment after I saw people like once it had hit my Facebook feed was, we don't know he's not in an open marriage and that she's not in an open marriage. Who are
Could
we?
be.
Like we've decided there's a scandal there, but is there? Like, who are we? And
Yeah.
like, and
ultimately, it's between him and his wife. It's no one's business. Yes, you get the comedians, and some of the memes are funny if cruel, but ultimately, deep in my heart, I don't think that we need to know that. But okay, so why, in your opinion, if there's this natural, easy, doable solution, we can all be happy, all be more productive, why are we so focused as a group on the salacious stuff rather than something simple and wholesome like this? What gives?
Deflection. In a word, deflection. Yeah, it's the same reason why we like Love Island. It's the same reason why we like Married at First Sight. If we look at them and what's going wrong in their lives or what's going right in their lives, we don't have to look.
We feel better about ours.
Yeah.
Is that all it is?
Yeah. Well, like we're always comparing ourselves, and I love this because I say to people, there's no competition really. There's like collaboration, but there's no real competition. But actually, on an animal level, there is competition, because I'll go back to the fact that I said our brains haven't caught up with modern living, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to the rest of our herd to see who's weak, because the ones who are weak are going to be the ones that are picked off by the predators. That's the reality. Same reason. It's the same reason why you see a red car. You see a red car, so you identify with your new herd. Oh, look, there's loads of red cars. I'm safe. There's loads of us.
Are so many of us really, really, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but people will be asking this question, really so primitive at some level? We think like that. Yeah, I've got a green car, so I'm unsafe. My boss has shouted at me, therefore I'm going to die. Does it?
Yeah.
I know we've all got a primitive part of our brain, but
yeah, it is really, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly it. Because our subconscious rules the show. And we know that by any New Year's resolution that you make, that your conscious mind makes, and 3 weeks later, 95% have broken their New Year's resolution. Excuse me. Right.
Probably a bit less than 3 weeks in my case, but yeah.
Well, at one point I did a study on it, because the conscious mind and the subconscious mind haven't aligned to the same goal. And think of your subconscious mind as being a road network, right? Its preferred route is to go from A to B the fastest way, so it's going to choose the motorways. And they're only motorways because they're the routes you've taken the most times, and therefore they've had to lay down motorway tarmac.
Yeah,
but there are
that fly together, wire together kind of thing.
There are other routes. Some of them you've got to hack through the forest, and others have got little white stone down. But the ones that are strong and the ones that are validated externally are the motorway routes. Because it takes a really, really brave person.
Strongest isn't always, or most established, I should say, isn't always
most
best.
Established. Yeah, because
you might have a much nicer journey going through the country roads rather than the M1, for example.
And they're established very early in our lives. And what worked for you when you were a teenager, 7, 8, 15, isn't necessarily the thing that works for you right now best. So you need go on.
And after you need to.
So you need to lay down new tracks. You need to literally say, right, okay, that motorway, we're just going to put it under construction for a while, and we're going to try this route out.
Like most of them are.
Put some speed limit on them.
What about people that would say, because I would have said this, isn't that going to take away all our passion and drive?
Absolutely not.
I would have said that, not anymore, but I would have done. So there will be people thinking that, it's a bit like people that say, well, if I don't get angry, nothing can get done. But actually the opposite's true, isn't it?
Exactly. So excitement and anxiety, if you really want to take the time and close your eyes and breathe in and feel how you feel when you're excited and how you feel when you're anxious, feel really very similar in your body.
No, but one feels good and one feels bad.
Only
One.
because you badge them that way.
No, I beg to differ, and I'm willing to be wrong. I'm absolutely willing to be wrong. But if I'm really excited about something, I'm like, hell yes, let's do this. And if not, if I'm scared of something or worried about something, no, it's a different
Okay.
feeling. It's the same strength of feeling, maybe, but it's a
Okay.
different octave, maybe. I don't know.
I'm going to say, right, if you're really excited about something and you're like, yes, let's go for it, you're really anxious about something, you'll feel the same way, but your response is, let's move away from it. But you'll do those two things. You'll take action in both cases.
Except in different directions.
Yes, but the feeling, because the chemicals released, the hormones released in your body are the same hormones. The actual, when you boil it down to the essence, the feeling is very similar.
So what is it? Is it cortisol, adrenaline?
Yeah, adrenaline typically.
You're really making me think.
I love that.
No, you're really making me think. And I'm comparing the two feelings. There's good excitement, like riding the roller coaster. Then there's I'm about to go on stage kind of nervousness, which starts as I use a roller coaster analogy here. It's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh my God, I really wish I hadn't done it. And it comes back. And then it's like, oh, I want to do that again. Parachute jump might be in that category or something like that. But then there's the really horrible anxiety. People were just crushing. And I still can't, I understand the essence of the chemicals is the same.
Yeah.
But carbon monoxide is only one molecule different from carbon dioxide, and one kills you and one doesn't. So, but they do feel different. So I've got to push a little bit more on that. Help me with that.
So what you've just described is prolonged anxiety.
Okay.
And you're right, that does feel different because that changes from adrenaline to cortisol.
Right.
Yeah.
So adrenaline is for the short burst, and we need it for the short burst.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do need a bit of bad anxiety. And I think this links nicely into what you're saying. You know, if someone jumps out with a knife on me, I need that instant response, fight or flight.
Absolutely.
Like I said at the beginning of the conversation, to get rid of it, no, you could probably drug it out of someone, but what's the point? And why should anyone do that? But it's not meant to last chronically, building up in the system. And this is your contention, isn't it? There's too much of it.
Yeah, which is why if you start reprogramming the RAS to look for something to make you recognize you are safe and actually things are all right, then you'll start to temper it. What I was going to say as well is, like, we talk about flight, fight, fear, and feign in terms of responses to a fearful stimulus. But actually, when they've done, flight, fight, freeze, and feign. You're going to make me say it all again in a second. But actually, when they've done further studies on them, what they realize is they don't all happen at the same time. Initially, excuse me, it's flight or fight. But if you're in that situation for a prolonged period of time, which could be literally a minute or more, then the other two come into play, the freeze or the feign. And the way to recognize that is, the best example of that is kidnapping. Kidnapping, they fight or they'll run initially, but if they are actually kidnapped, they're still terrified. And at that point, they'll freeze and go into a ball potentially, or they'll start feigning, which is effectively trying to make friends with the kidnapper. Does that make sense?
Stockholm syndrome type thing.
Yeah. So, and that can also happen in a toxic workplace.
Yes. Bring us back round to that. So you do a lot of work in the workplace. How do you How do you do it? Tell us all about your offering to the world. Where you go, what you do. How does it work?
I do loads of stuff. To be honest, I go in and help people build teams. I go in and help senior leaders get more out of themselves and out of their teams, but in a kind way, in a way with all of this in mind. So I absolutely don't subscribe to work harder, work faster. I don't subscribe to that. What I actually subscribe to is rest more, be clear on what needs to be done, work smarter. And because I'm an experienced project manager, I can challenge processes. I'm really, like, if you want me on my soapbox, I'll talk about meetings and how rubbish they are at the moment, and how actually meetings shouldn't be token shops. They should be rubber stamps. All the work should be done outside the token shops. And
Go
we
for
should
it.
have meetings
Clearly,
to
no, please
confirm
do.
things.
Please tell us more.
Oh, right. So it's even worse since we've been working from home, because now there's no walking time between meetings. So there's no time to reflect, because we go bam, 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 online meeting, online meeting, online meeting, to the point that people can't actually do any work because they're always in meetings, which means that if you expect them to do work, they're no longer doing a 40-hour week. They're doing a 50, 60-hour week, let's face it.
Well, that's not good for
which means
anyone.
they've got no reflection time. And one of the worst contributors to poor decisions is actually not having the time to kick the idea around, which means that businesses at all levels are making poor decisions because they're making them on the hoof rather than really assessing them and thinking about them and sitting on it. And so what
And there's a
happens
lot of
is,
wisdom in that, isn't there? You know, things done
yeah,
in haste. But when I've had my best ideas, I do stand-up comedy, and I've written the script, and it was pretty funny, I thought. Still needs to be tested. Just because it's funny in my head after a bit doesn't mean it's funny for everyone. But
another
that's
feeling.
I call it amber zone. I'll go out there and I'll test it, and if it needs a bit of work or tweaking, it's amber zone. It's got legs, but it's not quite there yet. Red zone, no, totally out. Green zone, totally in. But sometimes just kicking it about with someone. Happened to be the other day with my girlfriend, and she went, "No, that would be funnier," and she was right. It was. So,
Yeah.
but had I made the decision, I would have lost a good joke. So you extrapolate that. That's pretty big.
It's massive, and it's something that we're not appreciating. Like, we're
No.
actually forcing people to fail in their careers because we're not giving them time to think.
Wow.
And then if you really want to get me started, I'll go on
I
about
actually do, yeah.
The meetings that come into your diary with no agenda and no objective. What the fuck are we doing a meeting for? Like, seriously, what do you want me to do to prepare for it? It's ridiculous. It's a waste of everyone's time, because you guarantee somebody who needs to be there won't be, and somebody who needs to be prepared hasn't been, because they didn't know what to do. And actually, if you think about it from a monetary point of view, a meeting is a really expensive event. You are much better.
And then, of course, people will start to blame themselves, and then in comes the imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
When it was never their fault in the first place.
Correct.
So if you're watching this, or if you're watching the replay, take heed. Take heed. Don't blame yourself. It may not be, almost definitely isn't your fault.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at some of the comments, and self-worth is a big, like, a link to imposter syndrome. And basically, I went through this with some people yesterday. One of the things that happens is, thank you. One of the things that happens is we chase external validation, and that can quite often be recognition in job titles or in qualifications. And so we keep getting that external validation until effectively you've got no more qualifications to get, and then you can't keep that imposter syndrome at bay, because now you've got a senior job and nobody's telling you you're doing a good job. In fact, everyone below you hates you because, your management, and that's hard. And that's where imposter syndrome can really take hold.
Do you know what? I'm getting all these memories from my life flash in. Yeah, that was that. You're making me think of situations that I haven't, Suzanne, thought of for years. And I'm like, oh, that was that. And that was that. And yet everyone hated him. Yeah, I thought he was all right. But he seemed okay, but actually, I didn't really like him. Why didn't I like him? Oh yeah, he was senior to me.
But he was still human. He was still a
Yes,
human.
of course, but he was probably stressed. And then anytime he was off with me, I took it personally, and then the chain of pain sort of spiraled. I
Chain
put
of
some of
pain
these
carries on.
comments back on actually.
Yeah.
Paul.
So Paul said about the online reviews. So firstly, people will always think about negative things first. Right? If you go on TripAdvisor, it's rare that people post a really good review or even a modest review. It'll be it was terrible. The towels weren't straight on the bed, and it really wasn't terrible. They were just picky half the time. And I'm very much of the opinion people will initially post a negative review, but they're not necessarily doing that from maliciousness. Please don't get me wrong. Some people do. But it's again about keeping people safe. People should really know that we got food poisoning. It might be harmful to somebody else. I'm hoping you can't hear my dogs because the door's just gone, but I'm going to ignore it.
Dogs are welcome on the show. We've had dogs, kids, all sorts. It's no problem at all.
They're barking like mad at the minute, so I'm hoping it's the noise buffer things that work.
It's all right. It's fine. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have 2 cross German Shepherd Rottweilers, so they're quite big meaty dogs. So people will naturally put a negative review out first, and it goes back to, oh well, do you know what? We'll put a blame that we didn't like our holiday because the bed sheets were creased. Don't have to look about the fact that me and my wife hasn't spoken for 14 years, and we thought 2 weeks together on the beach with nothing to do was going to be a good idea. It's deflection in some cases. That said, there are some shocking hotels, and believe me, I stayed in one earlier this year for my 50th, but I didn't actually put a review out because did I put a review out? I think I did put a review out actually, but it was a very balanced review about that this wasn't the holiday I was wanting.
And that's fair enough. I mean, there's people that do it out of spite. They can bugger off. There's people that are being protective. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
There's people that are being picky because people can be picky. They've paid their money. They're going to have good value. So yeah, there's more nuances to it than just good or bad, isn't there?
Yeah. And like you've got to respect. I remember years and years ago, because I'm the family kind of sensible one, if you like, the one who will go, what's really going on? My cousin had asked my mum to write a letter to complain about her holiday, my cousin's holiday. So my mum went, I want you to write it. Right, okay, because it comes to me. And this letter was a full-on rant about this all-inclusive holiday. And it basically boiled down to my godson, who was 15 at the time, was bored. Right? So my cousin had a really rubbish holiday because, and there wasn't enough for the children to do, the teenagers to do. And I had to pay €2 for the pool table. And I was like, oh, really? Like, this boils down to he was arsey and she had a horrible holiday. There's not really a complaint against the holiday company here. Because what did the brochure say? And the brochure said additional local charges are applicable. There was no, and it was like, but it was before the days of TripAdvisor. And I'm pretty sure if TripAdvisor had been available, she would have put that letter unabridged on TripAdvisor or an equivalent of.
Yeah.
And we've gone way around the tracks. This is great.
Haven't we? Yes, it happens quite a lot on the show. I'll tell you what, Suzanne, I'll just do this comment from Paul, and then we get back to more of what you do. But it all ties in, doesn't it?
No, we don't have to. You're fine.
Paul, associate our self-worth and self-esteem with the negative rather than the positive aspects of life. It's truly about balance. This is Ace replying to Paul, and not associating the negative or positive with or self-worth or self-esteem. This is nice. We are so much more than the reviews of life.
We are, absolutely. Absolutely. Hang on just a second.
Oh, hello.
Bye. Yeah, thanks.
We have a guest on the show.
we have a guest on the show. That's my lovely, lovely cleaning lady who has been pottering around in the background. She's come down to tell me she's gone. It's interesting because if I'm not on a call, she doesn't come and tell me she's going. But if I am on a call, you can guarantee she'll put her head in. She's lovely.
So lots of work building teams. We've established where imposter syndrome comes from. and it's people making decisions who are higher up, which are pressure decisions, and we've established that as a terribly false economy. Basically, collaboration works and fear doesn't, in other words.
Yeah, fear works short term, right? Make no mistakes. Command and control management works short term. And we saw that in COVID. They stood up Goal Command and they dictated what we did. But that's not the normal way of running business. That's not the normal way of working. And if you bring in somebody for your team who is, we've brought somebody in because we need some diversity, and then you shut them down every time they speak up and give a different point of view, you're not actually bringing in the diversity.
No.
And teams need diversity, and you need the person in the team who's going to challenge the decisions. Why do we do it like that? Well, we do it like that because we've done it like that for years. Well, is there a better way of doing it? Let's see if there's not a motorway, but a one-track road that we can start paving.
But people don't like change, and they don't like to be outshone by other people, do they? Or in their perception?
Well, outshone is a perception, right? Because actually, if you develop a high-performing team as a leader, you are only going to get positive reviews.
I agree. I'm so sorry. Hang on. Let me rephrase that. I didn't quite mean it that way. After you've got the positive team, they would all respect their differences. You need the people of different, the ones like the Walt Disney creativity strategy. He would come up with an idea and then criticize it brutally. He would do all this himself, and then there was a third step to it. I can't remember exactly, but so you need that kicking it about. You said that earlier, but in the typical workplace at the moment, would you say that people might perceive that as a threat?
Yeah. So I think people who feel vulnerable will absolutely perceive that as a threat. And I can tell you of someone 2 weeks ago who went into a company as a very experienced person to go in effectively as a consultant, but on a paid level, because they needed some cash and the company needed them. And within 2 weeks, they sent an email saying, look, I've seen a gaping hole in this area here, and this is what we need to do to plug it. They had a phone call from HR saying, we don't want you. You're too it's not confrontational. It's the other one. It's like you're gonna upset the apple cart too much by asking the questions we want you to ask, and we realise we're not ready for you. We're not mature as a leadership team. Well, crikey! So what are you going to do for another 18 months? You're going to limp along the wrong road. I mean, talk about false economy.
What a bizarre
But that
decision.
is what you see. Yeah, that's what you see. I worked for a guy who had a company, 250 strong. He was still involved in sourcing the toilet rolls for the offices because he wouldn't relinquish any control. He was absolutely on his knees with his workload. And he had a massive team below him who were all really capable, who weren't empowered to do anything. What a waste of money. Why have them?
And did he change? Did he outsource his toilet
No,
roll?
I left. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I got an email just before lockdown saying I'm cancelling the programs with immediate effect. And I was the head of program management. And I was like, well, what does this mean? And it was, oh, we're going to give you 3 months worth of money. Right, gee, thanks. Gone.
So
do you know what?
I guess you would select some of your clients carefully. I guess with something as nuanced as what you do, you might be in a good position where you can sort of think, well, I don't want to work with that one. I prefer to, you know what I mean?
I'm very fortunate that I not only can choose who I work with, I only choose to work with people who are not happy living as a victim and therefore are prepared to act. Now, I say this with love.
You've hit the word, the V word, the victim. Yeah.
I say this with love and much appreciation, but I'm just sorry. I'm reading a comment there. I'll answer your question in just a second. There are some people who have learned that if they play the victim, they have a very easy life. And they therefore stay in that drama triangle in the victim mode. I don't work with those people. I have tried to work with those people, and what I realize is they're not prepared to take the actions or the responsibility for their own happiness and careers and life.
You can lead a horse to water, but there's so many people I've met that no matter how many solutions you give them, for every solution, they'll find 3 more problems.
Yeah.
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 Yes, but.
And
Yes, but.
yeah,
Yes, but.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly
but.
that.
Yes,
And
but.
I'm like,
Yes, but.
there's no but, you have choices. Because what I was going to say to you earlier was, we've heard about the drama triangle, but there's a different one. There's the empowerment dynamic. Have you heard about that one, Neil?
Oh no, let's hear this.
Oh, I love this one.
This is the pretty cousin of the drama triangle.
Yeah, I kind of want to switch you around and draw it on my whiteboard right now and show you. So think of the drama triangle.
By all means do, if we can see it.
Let me just wipe it all down. If you don't want to, I haven't got the spray with me. Let's go here. Think of the drama triangle. And instead of victim, you've got creator. And instead of, I could probably draw it on a piece of paper actually, as I'm saying all that. And instead of perpetrator, you've got challenger or challenge. And instead of rescuer, you've got coach or cheerleader. And the key difference is this: the creator still experiences a challenge, a catalyst, something that is an event, is a person, but without that emotion of perpetrator. So it goes back to responding and emotions and outcomes. So they have an event. So let's take what I've just described. I've got an email at the beginning of COVID. The challenger was the owner of the business. In the old triangle, he was a perpetrator and I was the victim. My husband was the coach, but not the rescuer, interestingly. Doesn't fit in that role, because what he said was, I work in a hospital and we need your skill set. Would you come? That was all he said. Because what the coach does is they ask you questions to help the creator decide which decision they're going to make. Right? So they're no longer a victim. Things aren't being done to them. Things happen and then they make decisions. See the difference?
I do. I would love to hear that again with a comparison between the two. So, because I've only heard of the evil twin, the rescuer, victim, perpetrator. But this is so valuable, because this
is great. Let me draw it.
It shifts the whole paradigm, doesn't it?
Yes. And our biology is geared towards the victim, but if you can, the victim triangle, but if you can do this, you're better off. I'm just thinking, I've got another whiteboard. Right, I'm trying to think where I've put it. Right, here you go.
Right.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see the triangle. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Right. So I'm gonna write what they were before.
And if you could maybe give us a practical example of each.
Yeah. Right. So you've got a victim at the top.
Yeah.
First thing I've got to say, I'm dyslexic. So any spelling mistakes, I'm just blaming on the dyslexia, right?
Don't worry about that.
You've got a persecutor and you've got a rescuer.
Yes.
So in my example, I'm a victim. I've just lost my job. My boss is the persecutor because he's just sent the email with no warning because I've just lost my job. And the rescuer becomes a hospital. Right. You need to know a little bit more about the story to understand why. But if I wasn't a victim and I was a creator, and it wasn't a persecutor, it was a challenger, and it wasn't a rescuer, it was a coach or a cheerleader.
Well, it reframes it all into the positive for a start.
Doesn't it just? Right. So what happened is I lost my job. Okay. So the challenge is I've got no job. But now I'm a creator. So I've got time. I've got no job, but I've got time. And we're in lockdown or about to be in lockdown. And this person, who happens to be my husband in this case, but this person says, I work at a hospital, we could really do with your skill set, would you come and help? Right?
Right.
And at that point, I go, okay, so I can stay at home, and bearing in mind I can barely leave the house because of anxiety, and I can stay in my own head, or I can choose to do something else. And what actually happened was I ended up at a hospital, a local hospital, and because I'm a project manager with an engineering background, I ended up setting up processes for them to get chemotherapy out to people who were shielding at home. And Asa, you asked a question about
Yes.
you've worked with a number of organisations and governing bodies. What was my biggest achievement? What was my greatest challenge? It's actually getting people to stop and think. But my greatest success has been this project, has been the stuff I did in COVID, because what I did was dramatically different to anything I did at the time preceding that. And preceding that, I'd brought in a fuel system on the Dreamliner aircraft. I'd done lots of kind of really cool engineering type stuff. But working within the NHS, within the legislations around control medications, infection control at the time, that was really interesting. My greatest challenge working with organisations and governing bodies is not getting them to change, because they will change. It's really challenging getting them to embed the change. And what I find is, like, the only way to do that is keep doing the touch points and use metrics as well. So people will buy with emotion, but metrics will help them solidify their story, especially in a big organizational workplace.
Because if the phrase springs to mind, what gets measured gets done. And yeah, because seminar high, that's springing into my mind. It's all wonderful at the seminar, and then you go home
Oh yeah,
to exactly as you were before. So you say touch points. Is that the key points, just reinforced over and over again until people really integrate it?
no, because that would be like a tell. And what it really is much more of the way I work, it's much more of a, right, so last month we were going to make sure we had one-to-ones with this person who was at risk of stress. Has that happened? Yes or no? No. Okay. What can we do right now to make sure it happens really soon? And it's not about saying, well, you must do it. It's like, how? What? It's not did, it's how and what. Right, this has gone really well. What have you learned? This went really badly. What have you learned? Okay, what now?
It's constant feedback and asking the question how, which is, because if you say how can we, the inference in that is it's possible.
We're going to, yes.
Yeah. It's a
how
clever use
how,
of
how
language,
will we
isn't
do
it?
that different in the future? Is much more powerful than, well, what lessons have we
Why
learned?
didn't you do it properly in the first place?
Exactly. Like, there's all blame there and lots of emotion. But if we say things like, and how can we improve it further? So people talk about, we talk about, plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. Right. I talk about plan, do, check, act, improve. So it's always a continuous loop. And one of the biggest challenges we've got right now in the UK in particular, I'm going to speak about the UK because I've read the reports about it, is our people in the workplace, our young people in the workplace, do not have any resilience. They don't know what it's like to improve. They don't know what it's like to fail and have to get back up. Because we as a generation made it really easy for them. And we've celebrated exam success, and we've celebrated the SATs, and they were schooled into passing these exams rather than learning. And in doing all of that, we haven't done them any favours at all. Because when they get to the workplace, typically, if they've come out of university, 22, 23, and I've experienced this recently, they don't know how to prepare work. So I had recently someone, I said to them, haven't you been through university? Didn't you? She was continuously giving me work wrong. And I was like, didn't you draft your assignments? She was like, oh yeah, I draft my assignments. I said, how did you do that? Well, I put in a first draft because that's what they wanted, and then they marked it, and then I give them the final draft. She didn't actually go through that iterative cycle herself. And that hasn't helped them at all because they don't actually know how to prepare work well. And therefore, when they get feedback, they crumble.
They will take it very personally, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to create a safe environment for our sakes in 20 years' time, because they're going to be the leaders in 20 years' time.
Yeah, and I think
that they
it's
can
also
go for that learning.
and also important to frame responsibility as not taking a fall, not getting the blame, just owning your part in it, I suppose, because then I suppose if you can't hold it, you can't let go of it, kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But shame is not part of the equation, and negative emotion is not part of the
Shame should never be part of the equation. And this is where you get a real danger point, because if you've got a manager who's under stress and duress, and a person who doesn't know how to perform well, then that can end up being micromanagement and really destroy the confidence of that when actually what we need to say, right, if you do it like this, would it look different? Would it be easier?
Absolutely fascinating conversation, Suzanne.
You've
Thank
all
you so
frozen
much.
on me.
Yes, you're frozen on me too. I can still hear you.
Okay. So yeah, we go back to the shoelaces thing, right? You wouldn't shout and bawl at your kid for not being able to tie their shoelaces.
No.
So why would you shout and bawl at an employee for not being able to produce a piece of work? Because nobody does work badly on purpose.
No.
Because that's not much fun.
No, I guess they don't. Well, I guess they don't. Of course they don't. A fascinating conversation, Suzanne. Real food for thought.
It's been a delight. So. Thank you very much, Neil, for the opportunity.
You've frozen again. You've frozen a very kind of statuesque pose, a very sort of thinking. It was like Suzanne the thinker, a bit like the Greek statue with it. Anyway, but you've frozen again. Can you still hear me? All right.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, perfectly. Suzanne Young, thank you so much. If people would like to learn more about your work, it's riverly.co.uk. Loads of good information on the website. And I have to say, I'm super impressed by listening, because these concepts I've come across before, but you've really condensed them down and made them doable. I love the creator, challenger, coach. I've never heard of the good cousin of the drama triangle. Again, always the negative bias, but everything has an opposite version, doesn't it? So thank you.
Absolutely.
Suzanne Young, thank you so much for being on the Midday Show. Would you like me to send you this footage, which you can use for any purpose?
I would love that. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, just in Facebook, if you just pop your email, and I will download it and send it right on over to you. I'm sure you're familiar with WeTransfer. I'll just WeTransfer it over and keep in touch. And it's been absolutely lovely to meet you. And perhaps I'll meet you at a roller coaster park one day. We can compare roller coaster stories.
That would be a great party, wouldn't it? Let's come and go and have a roller coaster party.
Yeah. Did you go on Wicker Man at Alton Towers?
Oh, yeah. I liked Wicker Man a lot. I'd forgotten about that one. That was my favourite last time I went.
Yeah, I really like that. A bit like Runaway Mine Train on steroids.
It was just brilliant. I loved it. I'm glad you reminded me of that one, because that one literally outshone the rest of that day that I went last time.
Yeah, really.
I used to live near there, and not unfortunately, but we now live in a different part of the country. But I used to live like within an hour of Alton Towers, so I loved it.
Did you? Where are you based now?
I'm in Northamptonshire.
Oh, right.
So don't be fooled by my dodgy Geordie accent. I haven't lived there for a long time.
Not at all. Not at all. Suzanne, absolutely lovely talking to you, and good luck with everything, and keep doing the great work that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You take care now. Bye.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye. What a show. Russ and the gang will be back on Friday. All the best to Russ at the moment. I'll leave him to fill in the details, but all the very best to Russ. He's doing some Facebook updates you can see on there too. Thank you to our guests tuned in today. Dr. Asa for your thoughtful comments as well as always. Phil Dave will be here on Friday as well, the king of the cravat. And Jonathan Baz, theatre critic, and Chantal Ricards, the screen always fell there. Screen queen, Chantal Ricards, the recommendations of all the good stuff to watch on TV. But in the meantime, that's it for the Midday Show today. Thank you very much and good afternoon.